Jersey Joe accompanies me on today's two-part episode on Easter Sunday as we talk about the state of the New Jersey Devils and where they go from here. And Jersey Joe will share some of his thoughts as to how the Devils can improve their roster. Lots to break down in today's two-parter once again. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils driver, pucks, pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. Happy Easter, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your goodies with your friends and loved ones. Hopefully a big pink bunny came by your house and left you all sorts of candy and things like that. But the show must go on forever and always. Joining me on today's episode is Joseph Stanislaw, better known as Jersey Joe. It's been a while since he's appeared on Locked On Devils. I think the last time he appeared was in early January, but a lot has happened since then. Devils playoff chances around 9%, but I think it's a safe bet that they're not going to get to the playoffs. We're going to discuss where do the Devils go from here, any hope moving forward, also some injury updates. Jersey Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. I mean, although I've been rather quiet after a week, I've been doing my due diligence in the amateur scouting department of Draft Prospects Hockey and just keeping up with the USHL and NCAA players. Meanwhile, I have kept my eye on, the young guys and the older guys on the Devils. And I haven't watched as much NHL games this year because of my responsibility as a amateur scout. But I do want to talk about the more important intangibles of what this team has done and what they should do.
Sounds good. And going back to what you said about the drafts, we're definitely, or the prospects, we're definitely going to talk about that more over the summer because it seems like the Devils, they're going to have a decent draft pick. And should they keep a hold on it or should they trade it away? We'll see what happens, but we're definitely going to have you on the show once again. And I hope to actually make the trip to Vegas to cover the NHL draft this year. Nothing is confirmed, but just a little bit of a hint for my audience. But let's start off with your thoughts on the Devils, because I think this team is better than what people are projecting it to be. Because if we think about it, Jack Hughes has missed significant time. Nico Hischier has missed significant time. Timo Meier has missed significant time.
Jonas Siegenthaler's missed a lot of time.
Dougie Hamilton, he's essentially been out for 3/4 of the year. We're going to talk more about him momentarily, but injury situation, coaching change, firing Lindy Ruff and making Travis Green the interim head coach, being sellers at the deadline. Yes, they got Jake Allen. Yes, they got Kaapo Kähkönen, but at the end of the day, they did part ways with Tyler Toffoli and Colin Miller. I don't know how you would label it. I labeled them as sellers because they weren't exactly buyers. And let's face it, Allen and Kähkönen, fantastic so far for the Devils, but they're punching above their pay grade, if that's fair to say, because we'll get to that momentarily. But the point I'm just trying to make is, despite all the circumstances that have not gone the Devils' way, the most amount of games they've won in a row is 3. They could have been 3 points out of a second position in the wild card, but of course they blew their chances in their latest game against the Buffalo Sabres. And now it just seems like any momentum or sliver of hope they had held on to is completely exonerated.
Was last night.
Yeah, your thoughts.
Well, first off, Tage Thompson's a freaking beast. I mean, you're going up against a guy that's at least 6'3", 6'6", power guy, sniper, power forward, does a little bit of everything. It's hard to stop a guy when you don't have enough coverage or when you have not enough experience on your back end or the forwards that don't have that high pressure that they deal with enough, or they dealt with a lot of high pressure and they can't get the puck out soon enough to thwart a possible like offensive drive by a Tage Thompson. It's very hard. And also Luke Hughes, okay, I'm not gonna dump on a player, but with a young player at the NHL level, it's important to learn from your mistakes. Luke Hughes, thinking at a very fast pace, needs to learn that when in a big, important net coverage in front of his goalie, must not abandon his post. Anytime I watch kids in their draft years going into NHL, it's how well can you handle crease coverage and how well can you box out the evading forward or skater in your zone, and how well can you keep them out. Kevin Ball is a perfect example of doing the opposite, keeping the guy further away. Luke Hughes is not really near that area yet. He needs to work on that. Ryan McGill needs to work on that with him.
The thing is that when the Devils drafted Luke Hughes, you knew exactly what you were getting, which was
right.
You're getting an offensive-minded defenseman who needs to work significantly on his defense, because I'll be honest, his defense surprised me against the Carolina Hurricanes in last year's playoffs. In fact, I'll say this. I think Luke Hughes' performance during the playoffs was one of the reasons why Ryan Graves was forced out of town.
Yeah.
And Ryan Graves was going to get paid by a team either way because it was a weak free agent market. But I think the Devils were more comfortable just giving Luke Hughes a bigger role, just because it was like, you know what? Seems like he has improved on his defense, but he hit that rookie wall and he hit it hard. And I don't know why Travis Green made Shimon the Mets a healthy scratch at one point, but not Luke Hughes.
He claimed with Nemec that he needed a rest. Guys like Nemec who've been in Utica for first full year in the AHL, playing NHL similar time and space, guys like him don't need too much of a rest. But Luke Hughes has not sat like in the press box once. Am I wrong, or am I seeing something? But
you're right. You're right. He's not been a healthy scratch.
And I get people asking me private DM, say, Joe, Luke has not sat. And I said, a guy like him needs to sit up in the press box for a couple of games. I'm just asking Travis Green or any future Devils coach is to let him sit and watch and learn. And he needs to have Coach McGill to work with him to improve his situational defensive coverage. He needs to learn how to box out players a little bit more, because, look, you're at the NHL. You can't just think about offense. How do you create offense? Through defense. You have to be able to move the man from the puck, and you got to be able to create a nice fresh air zone for your goaltender. Because when I watch goalies, what do they need? They need time, they need space, they need reaction time. They need a little everything. They got to work on their C pushes, which is where they skate from one post to the other. And they got to be able to use their T pushes, which is when a goalie pushes their back leg going forward. So they got to be working on their sharp angles.
Yeah, I think Luke Hughes is just him hitting the rookie wall, essentially. And that was an X factor going into the season, which was, I think Luke Hughes is going to be great. And in fact, I think he is still great.
He's going to be phenomenal. It's just going to take a season or two.
But is it safe to say that the last few games, aside from the Sabres game, Luke has looked a little better?
He has looked much more upbeat, and he's looked like the player that you drafted at, 4th overall? And, I mean, the kid knows what to do. He just has to do it. And when he has the confidence, he can be the best player in his draft year. And that's with the same group as Owen Power. And FYI, if you don't know the book, outliers. Luke Hughes was born after the cutoff date to the previous NHL draft, which is why he was almost a year younger than Owen Power. So he is born the last few months of his birth year. So he takes a little extra time and experience than someone born in January through June. So those kids tend to get more exposure, physical development, mental growth. And you start to see these guys born in 7 through 12 get drafted a little bit more the past few years. Guys like Timo Meier are actually late birthdays, and they start to develop a little bit more later than some of their peers, but they can still perform very well.
Yeah, so I think Luke Hughes is going to be just fine, and this is his first full season in the NHL, and I bet it was culture shock for him to play, I guess, essentially half of the games he has played now at the University of Michigan. And yeah, he got some playoff experience, but people need to know is like Luke has had a lot of mileage on his body the last few years, playing for the Wolverines, playing for Team USA, obviously suiting up in a few playoff games for the Devils. He did not participate in development camp, and he did not participate in the tournament that's held in Buffalo. He originally was on the list, but he backed out at the last second, and he has pretty much played in every single game that he can play in. A lot of mileage on Luke Hughes' body, and maybe another offseason in which he doesn't do anything, just like some rest and recovery, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of, whether it's your sophomore year in the NHL, which is usually for some of the greats, it's usually like they're D+2 or D+1 in some cases, because some guys come right out of their draft year and they go play in the NHL right away. Not Luke Hughes' case. It's more like a D3, a D3, D4, like draft third season, fourth year removed type situation. So those guys tend to take a little bit longer. So like college players, European players tend to take a little bit longer when they hit a rookie wall.
Yeah, so like bottom line is Luke Hughes is going to be just fine for anyone who's concerned about him. And he's not the only one that's struggling. Let's just be perfectly clear. And the Devils don't have many options when it comes to defensive depth because they have missed some key defensemen. Let's talk about some injury updates, shall we?
Yes,
it
please.
Was revealed by Travis Green today at the time of recording that Dougie Hamilton, more likely than not, will not suit up in a game the rest of the year. I feel as though if the Devils had a legitimate chance of making the playoffs, or if they were anywhere closer to that position, I think that sentiment changes. But that's speculation on my end. Dougie Hamilton, this is what we feared. Basically out for the rest of the year. He was projected to return in mid-April anyway, but people were anticipating for the Devils to make the playoffs. So they were hoping for a Vegas Golden Knight type of circumstance, because isn't Mark Stone still out for Vegas?
Last I saw, he was injured and is certainly looking like he might make it. But as an older player, from what I've heard, that it's less likely he'll jump in. But if he does, it'll be miraculous death for the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, he's going to jump in. He's going to play come playoff time. He's going to play.
He definitely wants to, but I'm just saying, like, doctors wise, they would have to clear him, with it being the right reasoning. But if I am Tom Fitzgerald, back to the Devils.
Wait, hang on. Can I just say, I think the Devils were hoping for a Vegas type of circumstance, because remember the Golden Knights somehow during the trade deadline period, they landed Noah Hannafin, and he's going to remain in Vegas for a while. That's the plan. And Anthony Mantha.
Yep.
At the deadline. I'm just like, Vegas cannot keep getting away with this. But
next year in this offseason, For the 24-25 season, it will be a salary cap of $87.7 million. And I just sent you a text from the Daily Faceoff saying that a lot of revenue and escrow is looking to pay off a lot of what the half of 6%, which is 3% target. And as long as the playoff numbers and revenue, hockey-related revenue hits, possibly see less, money withheld from the players' paychecks next season. And it looks like the cap can start going back to old norms post-COVID, from what I've read from Daily Faceoff. So the Devils could go out and extend a player by a couple mil or sign a couple of goalies, mind you, Tom Fitzgerald.
We will get to that. We will get to that momentarily. But like you said, going back to the Devils, they were hoping for a Vegas situation in which Dougie Hamilton comes back during the playoffs and the Devils have some extra firepower because they were projected to be big-time buyers come the deadline. Obviously, that did not come into fruition. And I said the main domino piece was going to be what's going to happen with Tyler Toffoli, because if he does not want to resign or if you can't come to an agreement, you got to ship him out. But if he does come to an agreement, then the Devils can focus on making that splashy move because now they know what assessment they have to make. But that didn't happen. Jonas Siegenthaler, after suffering a big hit from Matt Rempe a few weeks back, an elbow to the face that gave Siegenthaler a concussion?
Yeah. It has to be a concussion at this point. And I haven't seen the daylight of Bastion back since that game.
Right. We'll talk about that in a second too. But like I said it on the show, it's either a concussion or it's something with his jaw. Yeah, something with his jaw because his jaw could be both, which is why he was out for a lengthy period of time. But head injury is not a joke. Head injuries are no laughing matter. You got to take it seriously because in any sport, a head injury, that's a career ender.
Typically.
Yeah, so Jonas Siegenthaler, he's been out since that Matt Rempe hit, and I really hope that Matt Rempe gets his comeuppance from Curtis McDermott. Yeah, hopefully when McDermott is healthy then, because he's the only person who will be willing to drop the mitts in that sort of circumstance.
Here's my weird feeling about the upcoming game with the Rangers. The Rangers will likely play Rempe, but the thing is, Rempe's probably going to be trained not to go after McDermott or anyone because they know that the Rangers have playoff implications. They need Rempe to be around. But if McDermott destroys a guy like Rempe, then there goes your tough, edgy guy.
I don't care. I really don't.
I want McDermott to beat him.
Yes. Okay. Here's the thing.
What I'm saying is the Rangers probably trying to teach him do not go after McDermott.
No, that is not NHL code. No, you have to pay the piper.
Right.
You made that dirty.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I get
the coaching staff wise.
And this is actually going to be featured in an upcoming article I'm going to conduct. Cam Jansen was on my show a little over a year ago. And remember when he had that big hit on Thomas Caberlet, and to the point where Caberlet was down on the ground and he needed help getting off the rink big time. It was a scary situation. Then when the Devils traveled to Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs, the same team that Caberlet was on, Jansen knew he had to pay the piper, and Wade Belak dropped the mitts immediately to teach him a lesson. And Jansen just said in the same phrase that I just used, he knew he had to pay the piper, and he had to go toe-to-toe with Wade Belak. It was nothing personal. That's just hockey protocol. So I think the coaching staff for the Rangers, I don't care if you need him. Well, I know you need him, and I'm not trying to say like he's not important or whatever the case might be. But the thing is like he has to be taught a lesson.
Exactly.
That's the thing, and that's how the NHL works. You laid not one but two dirty hits on 2 Devils players that resulted in them being out.
And he signed an autograph with Nathan Bastian down injured.
Yeah, why would you sign that?
At Sports Mind Unlimited.
Before we continue with today's episode, let me tell you guys about the Sleeper app. I've actually used it to participate in fantasy football. Regardless of where the Devils are at in the current standings, I want to remind you that you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And you don't just have to participate in fantasy hockey. You can also participate in fantasy football, basketball, baseball, college football, all on Sleeper. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Devils fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. And now, let me tell you guys about Game Time. I've actually used the Game Time app before. Love it. Bought baseball and also basketball tickets, and I highly recommend it, using it. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to another big event. Game Time is fast and easy to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater, and events near you. The best thing about Game Time is that it has last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, views from all seats in the venue, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Take it away once again. I don't get it. That's kind of tasteless. It's a little tasteless that you sign a picture of a player you injured. Maybe it wasn't your intent to injure him, but he's been out ever since that hit.
You know that's going to stem with any opposing fan base of Matt Rempe's for the rest of his life. As long as he's there, it's gonna stick with him, and he's gonna go, shoot, I didn't pay the piper. Look, the next season he's gonna get rolled over.
I was talking to some people within the Seattle Kraken organization, because my mentor is their play-by-play announcer. Basically, they echoed what you just said. He needs to learn a little bit better, so that way he can keep his position in the NHL. But we're not covering the Rangers. It's not our problem. No. But going back to the injuries, Dougie Hamilton not set to return the rest of the year, more likely than not. Jonas Siegenthaler back to practicing, full contact jersey. That's a good sign. Nathan Bastian, there's a chance he could return. No confirmation either way.
I just rest him. I would just rest Nathan Bastian at this point. It's not worth him getting destroyed more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And plus, the season is pretty much a wash at this point. But where do you think the Devils go from here in terms of players that are still out?
Just don't even bother bringing back the 3. I would not.
But Jonas is back to practicing full contact.
Right. So don't be. That's why I said the other 3. Do not bring back the other 3. So keep Siegenthaler, but let Hamilton rest. Let Bastian rest, and just let the doctors do their thing. Let the rehab, all that therapy session, do their thing. Just let the guys that you had brought up from Utica at this point do what they need to do and showcase for the offseason to show what they can do by the time preseason starts up, and go from there. Unless, I will say this. I mean, Max Williams made a case for me, scouting standpoint, to bring back to the Devils. I would immediately give him a 2-way deal, but I would hope the next coach of the New Jersey Devils plays him on the 3rd or 2nd line next year, because this guy has all that willpower to chip in those goals when needed. When the Devils go after that free agent player as a forward, they need to have someone that adds that extra depth. If the Devils do trade away Alexander Holtz in a package for a goaltender, which could have happened earlier in the year or in the offseason, you want to have someone that could also chip in a lot of goals, but you also need a guy who can throw the body around. You can't just have lightweight, non-physical players. You need to have a hybrid of physical players, fast and medium-paced players. You don't need to burn everyone on the ice like a Tesla, but you need some Subarus on the ice that are really rugged, tough, that can do the job in those off-road conditions. You got guys like Chandler Stevenson who are out there per cap friendly. You have Sam Reinhart as a goal scorer, as a UFA. I don't think he's going to come to that, but if he asks for a little bit more from Florida, he can move on. But I'm just saying, those are names that are out there, but they might not be out there where they go out and leave after the cup is hoisted.
All right.
But defense-wise, you need to get your Zadorov, because it looks like Hanifin is just going to stay in Vegas, or he's just going to be a rental.
More likely than not, the plan is to keep him in Vegas. So
because he's wanted stability for years.
Would you go back? Would you aim Tyler Toffoli again? Because Tom Fitzgerald said he's open to bring back Toffoli, but the two sides obviously have to come to a deal in terms of length of contract.
I would absolutely bring back Tyler Toffoli in a heartbeat. My thing is, it's not the money part, it's the term. And that's the middle ground. That's the middle ground the Devils need to come back to. Because I heard that Tyler was looking for 7 years or something I was hearing.
I don't know if it was actually 7 years, but I remember talking with Ryan Novozinski and James Nichols on a Twitter space, and James brought up the point saying hey, if he wants a 7-year deal, that's probably something you want to stay away from. And I agree with them in that case, because if hypothetically, if he wants a 7-year deal, that's not a good investment for the Devils. That doesn't make sense because Toffoli turns 32 in late April. So you want him. So I don't know.
Would go,
and he's already not a fast skater. That's only it's gonna get worse. And so I don't think that's a good investment.
For me, 2 years would be perfect. You can see where he's at age 34 and see how the mileage goes. But you don't want to, give him the Mike Camilleri contract. You never want to do that.
Right. So
because look at what happened with him when he came over, I think from Calgary at the time. I'm just being cautious from the past.
Right. So Tyler Toffoli, that's just the thing, which is what does he want? And you talk about stability. I think that's the big thing he wants is stability, because ever since 2020, he's been a bit of a journeyman. He's played with 6 different teams. He's played with the LA Kings. He's played for the Vancouver Canucks, the Montreal Canadiens, the Calgary Flames, the New Jersey Devils, and now the Winnipeg Jets. 6 different teams since 2020. And I know people remember him from his days with the LA Kings winning a Stanley Cup.
I remember that.
But similar to Eric Haula, he's a bit of a journeyman, and he probably wants some stability. And when Haula was happy with the Devils, he was like, I want to stay here, and I'm willing to.
And Haula has 2 more years contract. I would say this. If I was Toffoli's agent, I would say, look, I mean, you're a really good goal scorer, but you got to think ahead about the next couple of years for your body and your mileage. 2 to 3 years would be good, as long as they pay you a little extra on the money. Absolutely take it. I mean, the cap goes up, you should get a little bit extra money. But my thing is, the Devils should look at possible trades to make, because there could be some other players that are younger, faster than Toffoli, but don't need to be so fast that it's they don't always end up scoring where the mitts not matching their boots. So you want to find that common middle ground, but that's what Tom Fitzgerald needs to strike a balance with.
And we're going to have to leave it there for part 1, but don't worry, there's still more in store, as Jersey Joe and I are going to discuss potential head coaches for the Devils and their off-season approach. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening once again. Part 2 is up right now.